It was a quiet morning when a shocking discovery changed everything. A local man walking near Loch Lomond noticed something floating by the water's edge. At first, he thought it might be debris carried by the current, but as he got closer, his heart sank. What he saw was not rubbish. It was human remains. A severed limb had washed ashore, pale against the dark waters. Within hours, more body parts were recovered from the loch, each discovery more disturbing than the last. Police were immediately called to the scene, and soon the calm beauty of the Scottish Highlands turned into the setting of a chilling crime investigation. Officers carefully collected the remains, sealing them as evidence. Divers were brought in, searching the loch for more, while forensic teams worked to piece together the gruesome puzzle. The community was left in fear, asking the same haunting question: who had suffered such a violent fate, and who was capable of such brutality? The discovery marked the beginning of one of Scotland's most disturbing murder cases, a story of horror hidden beneath still waters, now exposed to the world. Police began search. The moment the first remains were confirmed as human, the investigation took on a new urgency. Police sealed off the area around Loch Lomond, treating it as a major crime scene. Every piece of evidence was vital, no matter how small. Officers spread out across the shoreline, while search teams combed the water and surrounding woods. Helicopters scanned from above, and specialist divers searched below the surface, hoping to find more clues. The loch, once seen as peaceful, now carried an air of menace. Detectives began interviewing locals, asking if anyone had seen suspicious activity near the water in recent days. Farmers, walkers, and fishermen were questioned, yet no one could provide a clear answer. At the same time, forensic experts worked tirelessly, analyzing the body parts, trying to determine the cause of death, and if they all belonged to the same victim. The case quickly grew darker. This was no accident. Someone had dismembered a body and tried to hide it in the loch. For the police, the search was no longer just about finding remains. It was about uncovering the truth behind a brutal crime, and every hour mattered in catching the person responsible. Victim identified. After days of painstaking forensic work, investigators finally had a breakthrough. The remains recovered from the loch were carefully examined, and DNA testing was carried out. Bit by bit, the pieces began to form a clearer picture. The victim was identified as a man named William Beggs. His name brought shock and fear, because this was not just a random disappearance. It was the beginning of a story tied to violence and betrayal. Detectives learned that William had last been seen alive at a party in Glasgow, only days before his body was found. Friends described him as outgoing, full of energy, and trusted by many. His sudden disappearance had worried those close to him, but no one expected such a horrifying end. Police traced his final movements, looking at where he went, who he was with, and how he could have ended up in the loch. The identification changed the case completely. Now, this was not just about finding a killer. It was about delivering justice for William. The loch had given up its secret, but investigators knew the most difficult task still lay ahead: discovering who was behind his brutal death and why he had been targeted. Tracing the killer with the victim now identified, detectives turned their full attention to tracking down the person responsible. Every detail of William Beggs' last night alive was re-examined. Police spoke with witnesses from the Glasgow party where William had been seen, building a timeline of his movements. Slowly, a clearer image began to emerge. It was revealed that he left the gathering with a man who had a dark and troubling past. Investigators dug into this suspect's background and found disturbing connections to violence. At the same time, forensic experts studied the remains for signs of restraint and injury, proving that William had suffered a brutal attack before his body was dismembered. Officers began following financial records, phone logs, and travel routes, searching for links between William and his suspected killer. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to connect, and the focus of the investigation narrowed. What started as a mystery at the loch was now pointing to one man, a predator hiding behind a mask of normality. For police, it was no longer just about solving a murder. It was about stopping someone capable of shocking cruelty before he could strike again. Hidden clues. As the investigation deepened, the smallest details began to speak volumes. Forensic teams uncovered fibers, blood traces, and tool marks that had been overlooked at first glance. Each clue added a new layer to the story of William Begg's death. Detectives discovered that the suspect had tried to clean and hide evidence, but science left no room for escape. Luminol revealed bloodstains that had been scrubbed, while carpet fibers found on the remains matched items inside the suspect's home. Police also recovered bin bags identical to those used to wrap the body parts, linking directly back to the killer. Even the saw used for dismemberment bore traces that tied it to the crime. Witnesses came forward, recalling strange behavior, late-night trips, sudden disappearances, and nervous conversations. These hidden clues, once pieced together, created a chain too strong to deny. The suspect's careful planning was falling apart under the weight of evidence. What had seemed like a perfect cover-up was now unraveling. Each secret uncovered by the investigators brought them closer to exposing the truth. The loch had given up its body, but now the hidden details were giving up the killer. Arrest made with the evidence piling up, detectives knew it was time to act. Surveillance confirmed the suspect's movements, and forensic proof tied him directly to the crime. The man at the center of the investigation was William Beggs, already known to police for violent behavior in the past. Officers prepared for the arrest carefully, aware that he was unpredictable and dangerous. In the early hours of the morning, a team surrounded his flat, moving in swiftly to prevent any chance of escape. Beggs was taken into custody without incident, but the tension in the air was heavy. Inside his home, police uncovered more incriminating items: blood, stained clothing, cutting tools, and other hidden evidence. These discoveries left little doubt about his role in the brutal killing. News of the arrest spread quickly, shaking the local community. For many, the idea that someone capable of such violence had been living among them was chilling. For investigators, however, the arrest was only one step forward. They now had to ensure the case would stand strong in court, and that every piece of evidence would speak clearly to the jury. Justice for William was finally within reach. Trial in court. When the case finally reached court, the nation watched closely. William Beggs, already feared for his violent past, now stood accused of one of Scotland's most shocking murders. Prosecutors laid out the evidence step by step: DNA links, forensic tests, and the chilling discovery of William's remains in Loch Lomond. The jury listened as experts explained how the tools found in Beggs' flat matched the cuts on the body, and how fibers and blood tied him directly to the crime scene. Witnesses described his suspicious behavior in the days after the murder, closed with a killer behind bars, and a victim's voice finally heard.